You know what is going to happen. You have always known. Not everything. Not every detail. Not every name. Not every moment in the sequence. But the shape of it. The direction. The end. You have known the end since before the war began. Since before Paris sailed to Sparta. Since before the first Greek ship appeared on the horizon. You saw it coming the way you see a storm coming. Not the individual raindrops, but the darkness gathering, the specific quality of the light before everything changes. You told them. When Paris left for Sparta, you told your father, you told Hector. You stood in the hall of Priam's palace and you said, if Paris goes, Troy falls. Do not let him go. Send someone else. Send anyone else. This journey ends the city. They listened politely. They let him go. You watched the ship leave the harbor. You already knew what it was carrying away. When the Greek ships came, you told them again. When Achilles arrived on the plain, you told them. When Patroclus died and Achilles came back, you told them. When the wooden horse appeared on the plain and everyone said, the Greeks have gone. Burn it. No, bring it in. It is sacred. You stood at the Scaean gate and you screamed. You screamed. There are soldiers inside the horse. They laughed. They brought it in. And now you are sitting in the dark and the city is burning. And everything is exactly as you saw it would be. You were right. You are always right. But it has never helped anyone. This is a story about the loneliness of being right. Cassandra is one of the most enduring figures from the Troy tradition, not because she fought, not because she was powerful, but because her specific suffering resonates across thousands of years with anyone who has ever known something true and been unable to make others believe it. Her name has become a word in English. A Cassandra is someone whose accurate warnings are ignored. The curse outlasted the myth. In the ancient tradition, Cassandra was a princess of Troy, daughter of Priam and Hecuba, sister to Hector and Paris. Apollo granted her the gift of true prophecy. When she refused his advances, he cursed her. She would always prophesy truly, and no one would ever believe her. This specific punishment, not silencing her, not taking the gift away, but leaving her with perfect knowledge and perfect inability to communicate it, has fascinated people for 3,000 years. The Cassandra of the ancient sources is not a passive sufferer. She warns repeatedly and urgently. She is at the Scaean gate when the horse is brought in. She tells them it is a trap. She is ignored, dismissed, sometimes restrained. After the fall of Troy, she is taken by Agamemnon as a prize, brought to Mycenae, and killed there by Clytemnestra along with Agamemnon. She sees this coming too. She says so. Nobody believes her. Her name was Cassandra. She was a princess of Troy and a prophet of Apollo. She saw the end of everything she loved 10 years before it happened and spent 10 years watching it arrive exactly as she knew it would. In this story, you are Cassandra. You know, you have always known. The city is burning. You were right. This is the worst part. Not the burning, but the being right about the burning. And the 10 years of knowing it was coming. And the screaming at the gate and the laughter. In this story, you are the prophet. The curse is not that you see the future. The curse is that you see it clearly, say it plainly, and watch it happen anyway. The gift came when you were young, not as a thunderbolt, not as a visitation of divine light, not as the dramatic arrival that stories about divine gifts tend to describe. It came quietly, the way a change in perception comes, gradually and then all at once and then permanently. One morning you woke and the world had a different texture. Things that were going to happen had a quality that things that were not going to happen did not have. You could not explain it then. You cannot fully explain it now. You simply know. Apollo was involved. You know this because of the nature of the knowledge. It has the specific quality of prophetic sight, the divine channel, the thing that comes from outside the self rather than from within it. Your own thoughts and intuitions feel like your own. The prophecy feels like reception, like being a vessel for something that passes through you. For a while, it was wondrous. You saw things, you knew things. The knowledge was sometimes frightening, but it was also, you can admit this, in the privacy of this night, sometimes beautiful. To know, to see the shape of things before they arrived. There is a specific sensation in that, a clarity that ordinary life does not provide. Then Apollo asked for something in return. You refused. The clarity remained. The curse arrived with it. You told your first prophecy the day after. You told your mother something true and specific about what was going to happen with the harvest from the eastern fields. She listened. She nodded. She did not believe you exactly. She acted on other information, the information she already had. And when the harvest came in exactly as you had said, she did not connect it to what you told her. This was how it started. True, disbelieved, confirmed, forgotten. The pattern that would define the next decade. You told Hector about Paris before Paris left for Sparta. Hector listened more carefully than most people listened to you. He always did. He took you seriously in the way of an older brother who has seen you be right before and cannot quite dismiss what you say even when it seems impossible. He listened. He thought about it. Then he decided that the diplomatic mission to Sparta was important, that Paris was the right person to send, that the gift of prophecy did not necessarily mean the prophesied outcome was inevitable. He let him go. You watched him make that decision. You saw, in the moment he made it, exactly what it was going to cost him. Paris came back with Helen. You knew he would. You had known since before he left. The specific knowing of it. Helen, the ships, the Greeks, the 10 years, had been with you since the morning you woke and found the gift had arrived. The scale of it was the first thing that was ever truly frightening about the prophecy. Not a harvest or a storm or a personal misfortune, a war. 10 years, the end of the city. When the ship came into the harbor, and you saw her standing on the deck beside Paris. Something in you that had been braced against this moment finally arrived at it. The thing you had been carrying in potential became the thing you were carrying in fact. You went to your father. Priam is not a cruel man. He is not a stupid man. He is a king who loves his children and who has, across a long reign, learned to navigate the complicated terrain of a large family and a significant city. He loves Paris. Paris is difficult. Everyone in the family knows this, knows the specific ways in which Paris is not Hector, not the son the city needs, but Priam loves him. You told him, send her back now, before the Greeks come. The war that comes if she stays will end Troy. He looked at you, he said, Cassandra. He said your name, the way people say your name, with a specific mixture of love and sadness, the tone reserved for someone you care about who says things you cannot follow, the tone that is not dismissal exactly, something softer and worse than dismissal, the tone of a person who has made peace with not believing you. He sent a delegation to negotiate. He did not send Helen back. The Greek ships came the following spring. Helen herself came to speak with you once. In the first year, when the war was still new and the outcome still felt uncertain to the people who did not know what you knew. She came to your room. She sat down. She did not ask about the war. She asked about you, how the gift worked, what it felt like, whether you could choose not to see. You answered honestly. You told her the gift was not controllable, that the knowing arrived when it arrived, that you could not turn it away any more than you could turn away sunlight through an open window. She listened. She said nothing about what the prophecy showed about her own future. You did not tell her. Some things you have learned to keep to yourself, not because you doubt them, but because some truths, given to the person they concern, do nothing except add weight to a burden they are already carrying. 10 years of being right is not a triumph. People assume that prophecy, even cursed prophecy, must carry some satisfaction. The satisfaction of accuracy, the vindication of the person who said so when everyone said otherwise. They are wrong. The satisfaction of being right requires that someone acknowledge the rightness. It requires that the rightness changes something. A tree falls in a forest. You are the tree falling with no one listening. The first years were the hardest. You had not yet developed the specific emotional management that a decade of ignored prophecy eventually teaches. You would see something coming, and you would tell people and they would not believe you. And then the thing would come and you would see their surprise. And your own reaction was too raw, too close to the surface, too much of the anger and the grief of being right showing on your face. People found this difficult. The anger of a prophet whose prophecy has been fulfilled is not comfortable to be around. You learn to manage it, not to stop feeling it, to manage it, to keep it internal, to present to the world a face that was composed and clear, to say what you saw and then step back and allow the not believing to happen without the rawness of your reaction, making the gap between you and everyone else wider than it already was. You became quieter, not silent. You never became silent. The prophecies still came and you still spoke them, but with less force, less urgency. Not because the urgency was less. The urgency was always there, always the same, but because urgency had proven useless. Urgency made people uncomfortable. Urgency made them more likely to dismiss you, not less. A calm Cassandra was easier to be around. A calm Cassandra was still not believed, but at least the interaction was not also a scene. You became the calm version of yourself. Inside, everything was the same. Hector came to you in the 7th year. He came alone at night, which was unusual. He sat down across from you and he was quiet for a while, and then he said, "Tell me what you see." Not for the city, for himself. Personally, you looked at him. You saw what you always saw when you looked at Hector. The specific clarity that surrounded the person you loved most and feared most for. You told him some of it, not all of it, enough. He listened, he nodded slowly. He asked, "Is there anything I can do?" You said, "You will do what you have always done," he said. "Yes." He sat with you for a while longer and then he went. He never came back to ask again. You understood why. Some knowledge once received is enough. He received it. He carried it his own way. The horse appears on the plain on a morning in the 10th year. You see it from the walls before most people do. You have been awake all night, which happens more than it used to. The sleep that was always difficult becoming more difficult as the end gets closer. You see it in the early morning light, a massive wooden structure on the plain. And you know what it is before you have finished looking at it. Not because it is obvious. It is not obvious. A wooden horse left on the plain after the Greek fleet has apparently sailed away. Most people see a religious offering, a sacred gift. The Greeks appeasing Athena or some other god as they left. It is a reasonable interpretation. You would think the same thing if you did not know. You know. You go to the gate. The crowd is already gathering. The mood is extraordinary. The relief of people who have been besieged for 10 years and woke this morning to find the enemy gone. The specific joy of people who cannot quite believe what they are seeing. The gates are opening. People are going out onto the plain for the first time in a decade. Running onto the plain, the open plain, just to be on it, just to stand in the space that was enemy territory for 10 years and feel it under their feet again. They are going to the horse. You push through the crowd. You get to the front. You say, "Do not bring it in." People look at you, the specific look, the look you have received for 10 years. You say, "There are soldiers inside it, Greeks. It is a trap. If you bring it through the gate, the city will fall tonight." Someone laughs. Someone else says, "Cassandra," with that tone. The tone that is your name and your dismissal in one word. You scream at the gate. This is the moment the stories always describe. Cassandra at the Scaean gate, screaming about the horse, being restrained, being ignored. The screaming is real. After 10 years of calm, of managed delivery, of saying true things in the voice that made them easiest to dismiss, something in you breaks at the gate. Not your sanity, your composure. The thing you have been maintaining for 10 years cracks, and underneath it is the 10 years of knowing and not being believed and being right, and watching people suffer from things you told them were coming. All of it comes out at the gate. You scream. People look at you with the specific discomfort of people watching someone they know do something that confirms what they already believed about that person. They bring the horse in. The city celebrates. You go to your room, not dramatically, not the storm out of someone making a point, simply because there is nowhere else to go and nothing else to do. You have said what you had to say. You were not believed. The horse is inside the walls. The sequence of events that you have been watching approach for 10 years is now in its final stage. From your room you can hear the celebration, music, voices, the sound of a city that has decided it has survived. Troy celebrating the end of a war that has not ended. The wine flowing, the fires lit in the courtyards, the specific noise of collective relief that has been building for 10 years and is finally releasing. You sit on your bed. You do not drink. You were offered wine earlier and you declined, not as a statement, simply because drinking would be a form of participating in something you know is a mistake. And you too have much respect for what is coming to celebrate it. The noise goes on for hours. You sit in your room. You have been sitting in rooms listening to the world be wrong for 10 years. This is the last time. That is the only thing that is different about tonight. The last time you sit in a room while Troy makes the choice that ends Troy. The city celebrates. You listen. Slowly the celebrating winds down. The music stops. The voices thin. The city sleeps. You do not sleep. You wait. In the silence before it starts, you think about what it would have taken. Not at the gate. The gate was too late. Earlier. What would it have taken for someone to believe you earlier? You have thought about this for 10 years, and you have not found a satisfying answer. The curse was not that you were inarticulate or unclear. You were clear. The curse was not that your predictions were vague or deniable. They were specific. The curse was something in the mechanism of belief itself, something that prevented the people who heard you from allowing your words to enter the part of their minds where words become action. You said it. They heard it. It did not travel the final distance. This is the curse, not the words. The distance. It starts in the deep part of the night. Not a gradual beginning, a sudden one. The sound of fighting in the streets, which is a sound Troy has not heard inside its walls in 10 years of siege. The fighting has always been on the plain, outside, at a distance from which the city could watch it and be afraid of it, but not be inside it. Tonight, the fighting is inside. You hear it through the walls of the palace. The specific sounds of men fighting in enclosed spaces. The difference between a battlefield and a street. More desperate, more immediate. The shouting in Greek, which you recognize, and the shouting in Trojan, which you also recognize. And the sounds that are not language. You go into the corridor. The palace is in motion. Servants running, guards moving toward the sound, someone shouting orders. The specific chaos of a large household responding to an emergency, all the daily structure suddenly irrelevant, everyone operating on the survival logic that lives underneath the ordinary logic of managed life. You are calm. This surprises you. After the screaming at the gate, after the 10 years, after all of it, in this moment, which is the moment you have been dreading for a decade, you are calm, not numb, not dissociated. Calm in the specific way of a person who has been waiting for something for so long that its arrival brings not shock but a strange relief. The waiting is over. This is the thing itself. You knew this was coming. It is here. These two things are now the same thing. You think about the word believe, what it means, why it matters. The gods gave you true sight and removed the ability of others to believe what you said. But belief is not just an act of the mind. Belief is trust. And trust is built over time through a history of being right in ways that people can verify. Your prophecies were always verified too late. After the event, when the warning was useless, the curse was perfectly designed. You were right in a way that could never accumulate into trust. Each right prediction was acknowledged after it was too late to matter, and then forgotten before the next prediction could be evaluated with the memory of your accuracy intact. Hector died weeks ago. You were there. Not on the plain. Women do not go to the battlefield, but at the walls. You watched from the walls the way you have watched everything from the walls. The chase around the city, the moment, the aftermath. You knew it was coming. Knowing it was coming did not prepare you for it. This is something that the curse teaches, slowly and painfully, across years of verified predictions. Knowing a thing will happen does not immunize you against the pain of the thing happening. The knowledge and the grief are separate. You can carry both simultaneously. You do not choose to carry both. The carrying is not optional. Hector was the best person in Troy, not the greatest warrior, not in the final reckoning. Achilles was greater in the brutal calculus of fighting, but the best person, the one who understood what he was fighting for and chose to fight for it anyway, knowing by the end what you knew. You told him in the 7th year, he received it. He kept fighting. You think about him now, not the death, the living. The brother who listened more carefully than anyone else, who said your name without the dismissal in it, who came to you in the 7th year and sat with you and asked what you saw and received what you told him and carried it quietly. He is gone. Troy is following him. Tonight by morning, Troy will be where Hector is. You think about what you would have changed. If the curse could be lifted, if one person, just one, had believed you fully early, in time to act on the believing. You have imagined this many times across the years. Your father believing you about Paris. The fleet turned back, the war never begun, the city standing, Hector alive. The specific alternate world that was always one belief away. One person in the right position, choosing to treat your words as information rather than as the symptom of whatever was wrong with Cassandra, the world that existed on the other side of that choice. You have thought about it so many times it has almost become a real place. Almost. The visions come in the smoke. Not always, not predictably. But tonight, sitting in the corridor of the palace while Troy falls around it, with the sounds of the city and the smell of the fires coming through the windows, the visions come. Not of tonight. Tonight you know already. The visions come of what comes after. Agamemnon, the Greek king. You see yourself standing before him in the ruins of Troy, a prize, a spoil of war, the prophet of Apollo given to the king of kings. You see the ship, the sea, Mycenae from the harbor, the palace. Clytemnestra at the door, her face exactly as you see it now, with 10 years of waiting in it. You see what she is planning. You see your own end. This is the most specific thing you have ever seen. Your own ending in the palace of Mycenae on the day you arrive. You see it clearly. You are calm about it. Not because you welcome it, because you have been living with the knowledge of ends for 10 years, and you have developed a relationship with that knowledge that is not peace exactly, but is not terror either. You know this end the way you know all the ends you have seen, as information about the shape of things, information that you receive and carry and cannot change. You will try to tell them. In Mycenae you will say what you see. They will not believe you. It will happen as you said. This is the pattern. This will always be the pattern. The curse is not cruelty for its own sake. You have thought about this. Apollo does not seem from the ancient stories like a god who curses carelessly. There is a logic to the curse, even if the logic is the logic of a divine being whose purposes are not entirely legible from the inside. The gift of true prophecy is real and enormous. The curse, the disbelief, prevents the prophecy from changing anything. It means the future cannot be altered by your knowledge of it. Perhaps this is the point. Perhaps some futures are not meant to be altered. Perhaps Troy was always going to fall, the war always going to happen, and your gift was not to prevent it, but to witness it, to know it, to say it, to be the record of it, the living document of what was coming and was not stopped. Dawn comes over a different Troy. The fighting in the streets has changed into the organized aftermath of a city taken. The Greeks moving through the streets in the specific way of an army that has won and is now managing its victory. The fires still burning in the sections that burned. The palace largely intact. Palaces are taken, not burned. There is too much value in them. You are still in the corridor. Someone finds you. A Greek soldier, young, who looks at you with the specific uncertainty of a man who has been told to collect the women of the royal household and is now doing it and is not entirely comfortable with the doing. He speaks. You understand Greek. You have always understood Greek, language being one of the things that knowledge provides. He says, "Come, you come." In the courtyard, the Greek commanders are organizing things, lists, categories, the systematic work of occupation. You stand in the courtyard and you look at the city. Troy in the morning, after its last night. The buildings that are still standing, the ones that are not. The sky above it clear and blue, the same sky that was above Troy when Paris left for Sparta. The same sky above every morning you woke in this city. Agamemnon is there. He looks at you. You look at him. You see what you always see when you look at him. The man he is, and the end of him. The two things simultaneous. The gift that is also the curse, that is also the gift. He says something to an advisor. The advisor looks at you. The advisor writes something on a tablet. You have been added to a list. You think about what it means to have been right for 10 years, and for it to have made no difference. Not no difference in the abstract. You know that prophecy fulfilled, even unheeded prophecy, is its own kind of truth in the world, but no difference in the immediate sense. Troy is fallen. Hector is dead. The city that was your life is ending. You were right about all of it. The rightness exists. It just does not save anything. You carry the rightness forward into whatever comes next. It is the only thing you are taking with you. There is another side to the curse. You have not spoken about this to anyone. Not because you are hiding it, but because it is difficult to explain. And because the people you might explain it to are the same people who do not believe your prophecies, and if they do not believe the prophecies, they certainly will not believe this. The curse gave you something beyond the prophecy. The disbelief, the specific mechanism of the curse, the way your words do not travel the final distance into the minds of the people who hear them, has done something to you over 10 years that is not entirely negative. It has made you profoundly, specifically present. When your words cannot create action, when speaking cannot change anything, the speaking itself becomes its own purpose. You speak because the truth needs to be spoken, not because it will be believed, not because it will prevent anything. Because truth spoken into the world, even unheard, is different from truth kept silent. This is what you learned. Say it anyway, not for the outcome, for the saying. The record of a warning given is different from the silence of a warning withheld. The gods who gave you this gift and this curse, whether their purpose was punishment or something else, have made you into a specific kind of witness. The witness who says what she sees, always, even knowing she will not be believed, even knowing it will not help, because the saying is its own form of truth, separate from whether it changes anything. You said it, every time. Troy is fallen, and you said it every time. That is what you are taking with you. In Mycenae, standing at the gate of Agamemnon's palace, you will say what you see. Clytemnestra will hear you. She will look at you with an expression that contains something unexpected. Not dismissal, not the tone that is your name and your dismissal in one word. Something more complex. A woman who has been planning something for 10 years. Looking at a woman who has been seeing the future for 10 years. Each of them carrying something the other, cannot fully access, Clytemnestra will hear your prophecy. She will not be moved from her plan, but she will hear it differently from how everyone else has always heard it. This is small. It is not nothing. The sun is fully up. Troy in the morning light is still Troy in its bones. The walls, the streets, the temples on the hill. The city that was built here will not be entirely erased. Cities do not erase, they layer. Under the Troy that is ending today is an older Troy. Under that, another one. The ground remembers what was built on it, even when the buildings are gone. Somewhere in the ruins, the cedar box is burning. Or it is not, you do not know. The temple and its contents are not something you have seen tonight. Maybe the box survives. Maybe the 9 years of bad omens, written in the careful technical language of a priestess who read them accurately and kept them locked away. Maybe that record persists. Maybe someone finds it eventually and reads it and understands. And maybe your own record persists, your warnings. The things you said at the gate and in the palace and in the streets over 10 years. The words that did not make it the final distance into belief. They were spoken into the world. They exist in the world in whatever form words spoken into the world exist. The air received them. The stones of Troy received them. The people who heard them and did not believe them received them anyway, in the part of a person where unbelieved things go, and sometimes resurface years later as a vague memory of someone who said something that turned out to be true. You said it. Troy falls. You said it first. You said it every time after. The saying was real. The saying is the thing that remains, even after everything else is gone. Even after the city and the war and the 10 years, the saying remains. You remain. You will always have been the one who said it. Close your eyes. You knew. You said it every time. Nobody believed you. You were right anyway. A note of history. Cassandra appears in ancient Greek literature as one of the daughters of Priam and Hecuba, the royal couple of Troy. Her gift of prophecy and the curse of disbelief are described in several ancient sources, with the most dead accounts appearing in later writers, including Aeschylus, whose tragedy, Agamemnon, depicts her arrival in Sicily and her foreknowledge of her own death with extraordinary dramatic power. The specific mechanism of the curse varies slightly across ancient sources. In most accounts, Apollo gives Cassandra the gift of prophecy when she is young, and when she refuses his romantic advances, he curses her. But because a divine gift once given cannot be entirely taken back, he modifies it so that her prophecies will always be true, but never believed. This specific punishment, leaving the gift intact while removing its practical utility, is one of the most psychologically sophisticated curses in ancient mythology. Cassandra's role in the Trojan War tradition is primarily as a witness and warner. She warns about Paris bringing Helen to Troy. She warns about the wooden horse. She is consistently ignored. After the fall of Troy, she is taken by Agamemnon as a war prize and brought to Mycenae, where she predicts her own death, and Agamemnon's before both are killed by Clytemnestra. Her scene in Aeschylus's Agamemnon, where she stands outside the palace, sees what is coming, says so, and enters the palace anyway, is one of the most powerful scenes in ancient drama. The word Cassandra has entered the English language as a common noun, meaning a person whose accurate warnings are ignored. It is one of the relatively few proper names from ancient mythology that has become a general descriptive term, which suggests how powerfully the specific dynamic of her story, knowing the truth, saying it clearly, being ignored, resonates across cultures and centuries. The ancient Greeks did not consider Cassandra's curse evidence that prophecy was impossible or that the gods were cruel. In the ancient worldview, the gods were not required to be comprehensible or merciful. The curse was real and its effects were real, but it operated within a universe where divine will was not expected to align with human preference. Cassandra's tragedy was not that the gods were unjust, but that the terms of divine justice were not organized around human flourishing. Whether the Trojan War occurred as a historical event remains uncertain. The site of Troy has been identified at Hazarlik in Turkey, and archaeological evidence suggests a significant settlement there during the Bronze Age that experienced destruction. Whether that destruction was caused by a Greek coalition in response to a diplomatic or personal incident involving a woman named Helen is not something archaeology can confirm. What is certain is that the story has been told for at least 3,000 years, and that among its most enduring figures is the woman who knew it was going to happen and was not believed. Next, the worker who pulled the horse.